And today is Thursday, January 23rd, and we are
22nd, honey.
22nd. I did that the other day too. I'm just saying
Okay.
if you're paying attention.
All
And
right.
we're doing Peggy, which is about Peggy Guggenheim by, and I don't know if you all knew this, and we'll talk about it in a hot minute, by Rebecca Godfrey, who died of cancer before she finished it, and Leslie Jamison finished it. And I would like to call it an interpretive biography because it doesn't mention all, she was married to a lot of people. It doesn't
Four
mention
or
all of
five.
them. On Wikipedia, I was like, oh my gosh, she was married to this one and this one and this one. But first let me show you um what Rebecca, this is Rebecca, yeah. This is Rebecca Godfrey. Oh no, that's Leslie Jamison. She's the one who she finished the book, which I thought was wow. She came to and sat with her and just finished this book of Rebecca Godfrey's. People are still coming in here. Now let me find the picture of, here we go. Oh wait, this is her. Nope. Okay. Here we go.
Yeah.
Vanessa,
Yeah.
my iPad was doing updates. I don't know.
Oh,
Okay. Well, here
okay.
you are. Here you are. Um,
I just
yeah.
wanted to say, because it said on my book that she was the author of Under the Bridge, which
Yes.
I didn't know was a book, but it was a mini series, and I watched it, and it was frightening, but really well done.
Oh,
So,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah.
Because as I was Googling her, there was a
Hmm.
lot of questions about Under the Bridge. Was it real? Did she
Hmm.
this? Did she
Hmm. Yeah,
that?
it
So
was.
I'll have to take a look at this.
Hmm.
This is Rebecca Gottfried, and she died of cancer, and Leslie Jamison took took the book um, took the book over. Now, when she was writing it, it was supposed to be the dilettante. I think that Vanessa, think Peggy's a better name, and uh, I wish Susan Wellick was here, but I hope she's going to watch this because she said, "Oh, I don't know if I like this book, Vanessa." And I said, "Listen, it wasn't in the Holocaust. It
Hmm.
was a different time period. We got to, when she was describing some of the things that the family did, it's it's mind-blowing. So, let me read a little bit about read a little bit about Rebecca. So she was born in Canada, and her second book was Under the Bridge, an investigation of the beating death of Rena Verk. And so I guess it was made into a television show,
Hmm.
and then she curated an acclaimed gallery, and she was an adjunct assistant professor of creative writing at Columbia University. All the good authors are in New York. That's not true. And a week before her death, Hulu announced that it ordered the 8th episode of the Under the Bridge. So, wow. Her final novel, Peggy, was published posthumously, and this Leslie Jamison, Leslie was the one who finished it up. So I also, I had to get pictures of Peggy because she was a real character. And let's see if it's in here. There she is. But that dress by Man Ray, that was a real
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think it's this one.
that one.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And although in the book, they claim that they erased the pregnancy, but I don't, I don't
There,
know. Yeah.
there was another photo where she's standing.
Right.
Oh, here it is. Here it is.
Yeah.
That one.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, the one that's the left-hand corner?
No, yes, or right here, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I thought Peggy was a super interesting character, and did a lot with her life, and had different. In one of my readings, it said she slept with over 1,000 men, and it's
A
like, you
thousand?
know,
I
I
couldn't
mean,
believe
it was
that.
the Roaring Twenties. It was the Roaring Twenties.
Okay.
So before I go on, tell me your first thoughts on the book. What'd you think of it?
I loved it.
I unfortunately I didn't like the character. I didn't like her. I didn't
You
like
didn't like Peggy?
I
No.
didn't like Peggy.
Even when
Oh.
she got older?
I
Not in
I
particular.
agree. I didn't like her either. And a lot of times with these characters who are phenomenally wealthy
Yeah.
and like, oh, they have so many problems.
I didn't care for the
I mean,
book, period,
Yeah.
Okay.
myself.
I
Oh,
I did.
and
Yeah.
I loved it.
yeah.
Okay.
I
I,
didn't
But
like I didn't like the writing. Often she kept throwing all these characters
yeah.
in, and she
was
would give you
right.
the first names or the last names, and you didn't know for sure if they were the same person. And if you didn't know, like Samuel Beckett was Sam, or that that I don't know, there was somebody else in there. Oh, she talked about Renee, which is probably the artist
Yeah.
Renee. But if you didn't know those people, you wouldn't have understood how this all
So,
fit together, and that bothered me.
with the writing, did you not like it? The third part that was done by Leslie Jamison.
And actually, I like that better because it finally wrapped it finally wrapped things up.
Yeah, it did
I
wrap
mean, she was a
things up.
tragic figure. She was always
Yeah.
looking for her father, I think, and the men that she was seeking.
Absolutely. Lynn, go ahead.
The other thing that I really didn't like is that she often wrote dialogue but didn't have quotation marks around it.
Right.
And that
Right,
really
yeah.
bothered me as well. So it was a kind of hard read.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
found it really hard to read. I couldn't finish it
Mhm.
until today, and I kind of skimmed through the last part
Yeah.
because it took me a while to just like really
Um,
want
I
to read it.
I listened to it,
Yeah.
and it was much easier
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm with
because
Lynn on it. I had the
Which
same feeling.
which
I finished
yeah.
it today and I skimmed through it because I
Yeah.
honestly didn't enjoy the book all that much. I pushed through reading it because I like to finish a book.
Yeah. It
Mhm.
really surprised me that both of these people that there was so much, especially towards the beginning, there was a lot of dialogue, and you often couldn't tell who was talking or that it was dialogue or if it was thoughts.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that kind of threw me off.
I liked the first part of the book better than the last part.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, the first part was by Rebecca Godfrey. And I I kept thinking, because I was reading this as we were reading about Tatiana Schlossberg dying of cancer, and I kept thinking of the Kennedys versus the Guggenheims,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
what tragic tales. What
Yeah.
tragic tales. Okay, Merle and then Evie. Go ahead. Wait. Wait, and go.
Okay. One thing that helped me as I read the book to visualize these characters and so many characters was there is a documentary on Prime Video called Peggy
Oh.
Guggenheim Art Addict. It's a wonderful
okay.
documentary, and you see all of the husbands, all of the artists, and the people who knew her are interviewed in this. And it's from quite a few
Oh,
years
cool.
ago, but it is anyway, if you have time to see it, it's really worthwhile. It's called Peggy Guggenheim Art Addict. And she was eccentric and bohemian. And, the idea of starting that museum in Venice because her uncle had the major museum in Manhattan.
Yes.
But and the amount of money that I read that she inherited only $2.5 million because her father had squandered a lot of money. But that
But
was like
it's
it was
worth,
like
it would have been
43
like $45 million
Yeah,
today.
like now. Yeah. So
Yeah.
she still had some money, but she probably thought herself as poor compared to the others, the other cousins. But anyway, I recommend the documentary.
Okay. I
Great.
have Evie, Howard, Sandy, Paula. Evie, go ahead.
Yeah, I also had trouble with all the name dropping, knowing who's who, but I happen to love social history. and just
Mhm.
hearing more about the backgrounds of some of these people and so on and so forth. And I just find it interesting that she was kind of embarrassed by her name, etc. And you probably know the family, Vanessa. I do not, but I guess there's a family in Deerfield with twins with that name. They're the same age as my Joshua.
Oh, I
They were
didn't know
in the
that.
youth group together.
Huh.
And so when I kind of had heard their name, and I think I read this book for another book group as well, enjoyed it more the second time. But did I love the book itself? No, but I enjoyed reading about her milieu and her groping with the unfortunate and the fortunate that she grew up with,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
her reaction to it.
Yeah. Here. Howard.
Well, I wasn't crazy about the book, um, but I actually liked it better thanks to Merle's suggestion that I do watch the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
The movie is amazing. I watched it
Mhm.
yesterday. And by the way, I left a message with Merle earlier that you can get it for free on Canopy, which
Oh,
is part of the library system. And the movie, just to see her and see her life and how she built these museums was amazing. I didn't get that out of the book when I read it.
right.
And to see this movie, I would recommend it to everybody. As Merle said, it was just really, really, really wonderful book. And I couldn't tell. There was a couple of people that mentioned with the two authors, I couldn't tell from one
Right.
where one went to the other. Personally, that was just me. I didn't. I was trying to look for when that difference might occur, but I never really noticed it as I read the book. But it was funny because when I checked out this book in the library, the woman behind the desk, she says, "Oh, I just read that like last year or whenever it came out," and she told me she had the opportunity to visit the Guggenheim Museum in Venice,
Oh,
and
Oh,
she said it was
Mm.
like incredible. She said it was
Yeah.
just absolutely incredible. But she certainly was a fascinating woman.
yeah. So fascinating.
Mhm.
Sandra.
What was interesting, I struggled with it too. And the only thing that motivated me to get through it was remembering when I was in Venice, I had my husband and two friends walk all the way across Venice just to get to that museum. And it was a white building on the outside and it had some modern art. I remember a Jack Pollock painting in there, but that was the only thing. And that was, to me, her contribution. I felt she was very entitled, and I just couldn't invest myself in someone so entitled.
Yeah, we were discussing, and the Paul, I'm going to get to you in our short story book that when you don't like the characters, it makes it a little bit harder. But I liked what she did, and um, I was also thinking, so I'm thinking about, the Kennedys and the Guggenheims, but then the stories of the second author, who's Leslie Jamison, sat with Rebecca Godfrey
Mhm.
as she's dying on her
Mhm.
deathbed. It's just like tragedy
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
tragedy. So I was just keeping all that in my mind. Okay, Paula, then Merle. Paula.
Well, you just touched on briefly what I was going to say. There's a very interesting interview in the New York Times of Leslie Jamison's
Oh.
journey and time she spent, devotion, sat in hospice, like immersed herself in this. And they became friends after they were colleagues first. They both, I guess, taught MFA program, I think at Columbia.
Yes.
I think at Columbia.
Yeah.
And that made me, I read that today, and that actually gave me a lot more respect and understanding of the composition of this book, which to me is still a little, that's part of it. Maybe it's the writing, but I think the transition is seamless.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it was choppy all through. I don't think it was
Yeah,
just one
yeah,
author or the other.
yeah.
Merle.
Well, I thought there were moments where Peggy just had this amazing imagination. Like she thought Did her father really go down with the Titanic, or did he fill his pockets with jewels and go off somewhere to another island? She just tried to make the best of it. So really tragic, tragic situation for that moment anyway. But she was a woman who was not happy with the way she looked. I guess her sister Benita was so beautiful, and she was so unhappy with the way she looked. And she had her nose, she had surgery, okay? And what happened to the nose? They gave her a bulbous nose. She was not pretty because of this surgery. I mean, I thought the rest of her features were actually quite ordinary. And, with a little makeup, could have looked fine. But they gave her a bulbous nose, and then she refused to do any more surgery after that. So she had to walk around looking rather eccentric for her whole life because of this.
Yeah. Leanne.
It's funny that you bring that up because as soon as I finished reading the book, and I didn't love it, but I got into her character. And I'll make a comment about that in a minute. But the first thing I did was look at a picture of her because I couldn't imagine what this nose was all about. Because she talked about it and all these men who loved her. Oh, I love your nose, just the way it is, But so I looked at that too to see, how different it was or what she was suffering with. I think I liked the beginning of the book, and the parts that I liked more were when she did get into her relationships with her family. I know what somebody made a comment about, oh, woe is me. She had all this money and she had a lousy childhood. But I'm thinking, okay, perfect example. Money doesn't buy happiness. I mean, her mother basically hid her whole life. She had no friends. She had this relationship with her father. And when they first mentioned the Titanic, I'm a big fan of the movie. And I remember in the movie, Kate Winslet introduces Jack to Mr. Guggenheim with his mistress there. And so I mean, that was kind of fun. But I did, even when her sister had that tragedy with her children.
Well, first Benita dies in childbirth.
Yes, that's
And
right.
then the other one, I don't know, drops her children. I didn't quite understand that.
So, I mean, those are the kinds of things that I can't say I enjoyed reading about these people suffering, but the way those characters were developed and those relationships, because she went out on her own and she had to escape her family and New York and everything that was horrible there, but she maintained, that connection, that love, that responsibility to her family, even her mother too, who didn't always do right by her. So.
And you really have to know those artists. I just know them a little bit. Jackson Pollock, Kandinsky, and it was real that she saved those pictures and sent them home. Lynn?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we were at the Guggenheim in New York one year. It was interesting because it was a Frank Lloyd Wright exhibit with all of his structures and stuff. Pictures, his models, but also at the top there was an exhibit of all the Peggy Guggenheim artists that were there. It was Kandinsky and Pollock and all these and Dali and all these really surrealistic artists that she brought to the forefront in art. So we go to a lot of art museums. So I found that part very interesting.
Right. And how everyone was just like the Impressionists. And of course, in Paris, I don't, the Jeu de Paume had all the Impressionists. And I don't know if they weren't in the Louvre. And I don't know if the Surrealists are in the Louvre. I'm not sure who's where.
I don't know.
Yeah, but, all those, that she really recognized art, and to open a gallery is not an easy feat in any century. And so, good for her.
Yeah.
And and she had a relationship with it was Emma Goldman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And those in the short story book, the next story is about Emma Goldman. We have a lot of Emma Goldman. Keep them all straight.
Was she known to be bisexual during her lifetime?
Who? Peggy?
Peggy. Yeah.
I I'm going to say yes, but I think this book was interpretive.
Okay.
I say that Rabbi's doing a new bio book club. And on Sunday morning, we had Jane Eisner, who did Carole King. And it's from the Yale University Press, and they're called interpretive biographies.
Okay.
And so I think that's what this Peggy is, because it's not billed as a memoir or anything like that or
No.
biography, but obviously it is. But I think, and the more that we talk, that Rebecca Godfrey wanted the title dilettante, which she was. And then, I think it was Leslie who said, no, let's call it Peggy. So, or
Yeah,
maybe
but
the
you know
editor.
what? A lot of at the end they said a lot of the stuff was based on her autobiography, which I felt a lot of those sequences where they talked about her feelings were probably pulled from that, which I
Mhm.
thought made it more authentic.
Yeah. But I don't think they said Sam's last name. You had to know Samuel Beckett.
Well, they called him Sam at one. Well, first of all, they met at Joyce. Now Joyce is James Joyce, but
Exactly.
if
You
you
have to
don't
know
know Joyce,
that.
at
Right.
first I was
Right.
like, who is Joyce?
Right.
And then eventually James was dropped. And then at the beginning, she called him Sam, and then later she called him Beckett. So, I kind of put two
Yeah.
and two together, but it was tricky. It was very
Mhm.
tricky. It kept you guessing.
Right. And when I have a picture. Let me get that. When I did Sam Beckett, it's under Samuel. This
Mhm.
is him. Oh, well, wait. So here's this is Lawrence. This is the husband I think they talked about the
Mhm.
most. And I thought that was it was also this must be him right here. It was sad how he treated her and
Yeah.
used her money
Yeah.
and was,
He was not
abusive.
a nice
Abusive.
man. He was not a nice man, and he was
No, not
very abusive, very
yeah,
abusive.
yeah,
She's
and
lucky she survived that marriage.
yeah. And it was physical and mental,
Yeah.
physical and mental. And oh, then she was with John Holmes when I found him.
Oh, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know John Holmes.
Well,
I couldn't find him.
I
I knew
just
John
right.
because they never talked about how she said he died, but they never talked about how he died,
Yeah.
which
Um,
surprised me. Oh, okay.
poetical misprints. I mean, they were
Ah, he was a
they were
poet.
they were handsome men.
Hmm.
So,
And she was not a beauty, so they must have been attracted to her for something.
right.
Money.
She was-
But maybe her money. That's what she kept talking about too.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's Peggy. Wait, I want to get the Sam. All right. Merle, and I'll look for my pictures of Samuel Beckett.
To add to all the tragedy in her life, her daughter, Peggy, committed suicide. I mean, died by suicide.
Died by
Died by
suicide.
suicide. Yes, sorry. But she was an artist too, and her mother honored her with some type of a gallery show. But that was so hard. But I think that's why she had all the dogs. She had so many
Oh,
dogs, and she gave away a lot of dogs, but then she kept a certain number. So there were a lot of photographs with her with these cute little dogs. And that was probably a way of, filling up that emotional hole for her because she lost so many people she loved.
huh. Yeah. I mean, and it's just tragedy after tragedy. Lawrence wouldn't let her talk to Bonita, and all it just, that just makes it even more tragic. This is Samuel Beckett, and he was a little bit younger than her. I didn't, go down to. He's very handsome.
I don't think he was a lot younger though.
I'd have to, I'd have
I,
to Google
Let's
it.
see.
yeah.
See.
Yeah. Um. So, yeah. And what else was I gonna? Um, oh, and I was I was Googling it and then people had their hands up, but this is what the museum in Venice looks like. Right, Sandra?
Oh, wow. That's
Beautiful.
beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. So, Evie, go ahead.
I just think that's interesting that there have been so many books recently about museums, especially art museums. I know there were several about that Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston, of which I knew never even heard of it. And just the relationship of the relationships that the proprietor or the artist of those museums have gone through, also the art forger, but there have been just a number of them, and they're kind of a blur in my mind, and they all have what we would say is maybe unconventional, maybe from when we were growing up, relationships, and
Yeah.
I just find it kind of interesting. And I'm also wondering if there was a relationship between the kind of art that she was interested in her nose, just being
Uh,
out of the norm a little bit, like almost like in your face kind of thing, but not to
I don't know. Um, that also made me the personal librarian. And it was about Belle DeCosta Green, a Black American woman who passed as white, as J.P. Morgan's personal librarian.
right.
And so, yes. I, first of all, I think in those times, it was easier to not sweep things under the carpet, but there weren't as many paparazzi. I mean, I was a little surprised, at the times, and she had to, run the gambit through the paparazzi, and there were people, staking her eye out, and that's when she knew she had to move on. So, that was, things have only gotten worse, I think, in that respect. I think today, for bad or for good, I'm going to say maybe for good, our uh our heroes and those in the news are under these spotlights where you can't, I think it'd be difficult that, although I'm sure they still have mistresses and so on and so forth. Merle.
In her childhood, her parents told her, don't dress in a way that's ostentatious, don't draw attention to yourself, and don't talk in a loud voice. And here she was. I mean, they were all at the same level as the Rockefellers, and yet they couldn't feel that way because they were Jewish. And
Yeah.
I didn't realize at the time, I thought the wealth would change that, but it really didn't. It didn't change that. They
Yeah.
still had to be careful because they were Jewish. And that really shocked me. I just thought the money would change everything for them, but it didn't.
Yeah, I I think we've seen that today. Being Jewish is just something that always stands out. We read the book The Amber Hair, and that was about, I'm going to have to Google it, but the family in Austria, and they were just as rich as the Rothschilds, and again, I think a lot of them perished in the Holocaust, and some of them get out, and some of them didn't, but uh, they're never the Rothschilds, the Guggenheims, they're never going to be on the same footing as the Rockefellers and those people uh, of great wealth in New York and the East Coast. I think there's always a stigma, uh, if that's what you want to call it, to being Jewish and the money. And I I I I like the way she kind of wrote that into the book because, she wasn't particularly religious or observant or anything like that, but you knew she was Jewish.
Yeah.
You knew she was Jewish. And I wonder if that's why she wanted to save those paintings. If it had anything to do with, it had to keeping it out of the hands of the Nazis. It just had to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, let's see here. I have some questions. What themes emerge most clearly? Power dynamics, memory, healing, accountability. Which theme do you think she was really talking about as she
Can you mention
wrote?
those criteria again?
Sure, I have to bring it up. That now when you're over 65 and you go in to the doctor's office, they give you three things, and then they go through it and they say, "What were the three things I said at the beginning?" And I took my mom, and she goes, "What three things?" Power dynamics, memory, healing, accountability. Okay, it was 4. And so who had their hand up?
Well,
Anyway, those Paula.
I would say a lot of her life was based on healing
Interesting.
and, and her relationship with her sisters, and that was, and that loss and grieving and trying to find peace within herself and her own, her own sense of worth. She wanted to be this bohemian, but I think what she was looking for was not just being a bohemian. She was looking for recognition, but for self-worth as well.
Evie, any comments?
My hand was just up. I'm sorry.
Okay. I also think the healing had to do though with memory because of the sisters and the dad and
there's a lot of trauma in her life.
A lot of trauma in her life. And when you think, of course, I just went through this thing that it would be very hard, but here he was on the Titanic, as Leanne said, and we remember from the movie, with his mistress. I mean, that was, that's got to be, especially for a daughter, it just has to be devastating.
Yeah.
Absolutely devastating.
Well, and she always held it against her sister because he was coming home because it was her sister's birthday.
Oh, right.
So that was kind of harsh too.
Right.
But I also think she understood maybe why her dad, went with other women because their marriage, the marriage with her mother was not good, and she knew what her mother was like. I don't think she was condoning it, but I think she understood it as much as she could at that age.
Do you think any of the themes in this book resonate with current events? I'll be quiet. I mean, the only thing that I can think of is that
which hour of current events? It changes by the hour.
It's really more than I can bear.
Right.
It's in 2 weeks, Jim Kenney's going to be by to talk about the midterms, and there's just so much going on. I'm sure his talk will change 10 times before he gets here, but her helping out those artists and with the current administration's canceling funds for PBS and all these different arts funded things, that she had so much money that she could, open galleries, she could help artists.
And didn't she get a lot of money when her mother passed? Because she was running low on money. But
yes, when her mother passed, no, she got it when she turned 21.
Yeah, but then I thought there was a part in the book towards the end where she was running low.
So too.
And when her mother passed, she got however much money from her mother. So that helped her with more of the art galleries.
Although I have a feeling her running low and our running low two different running lows.
You have to take it in the way it was done at that time.
Yeah.
It was like then when they had to move to a different apartment when the father died. It was like, really, how much smaller was it? It would have been a huge apartment for one of us.
Exactly. And it's still New York. It was still expensive.
That's true.
And they had servants and this and that. And I think also thinking about the dinner parties she threw, I thought for our imaginations, what a society. And of course, we've seen some of it portrayed on television. I don't know, the Gilded Age. Yeah. And I just think it's fascinating to think that, that's how people lived. Merle?
Well, they said she threw a lot of parties in Venice, but that she was very cheap about it, that the wine was terrible and the pasta wasn't good and nothing tasted good, but she continued to throw these parties. And I thought, well, that was her way of saving money
Yeah.
because whatever she had, she was worried about it.
Yeah.
But you'd see these pictures, the parties look very lavish, but they said it wasn't good food, and that is unusual
Yeah.
for people of her rank
Her
in
caliber,
society.
right.
Yeah. Mhm.
But also when she was talking about those parties where she didn't know anyone and people, were having sex in her bed, that was just ew.
Yeah.
And maybe she didn't want to give them like the best wine and, she was trying to move them out. Evie.
Yeah, I just thought it was considering her Jewish background, I thought it was so un-Jewish because the food was minimal, whereas the wine was more flourishing and so forth. So I had a chuckle on that. But I just have to share with you, Vanessa, when you mentioned
Yes.
about the memory thing. Um,
Yes.
a number of years ago, I knew a woman who was a social worker for the I guess there's a day drop-in thing at North Shore Senior Center.
Uh-huh.
They always have to do an assessment. And this was maybe about 8 years ago, I would say. And a woman walked in and they asked her, one of the questions was, who's the president of the United States? And in this lovely accent, she said, darling, I don't know, and I really don't care. So how do you even question somebody? She had more together than people who had the right answer.
Yeah.
So I think it just shows
Yeah.
the memory.
Yeah. Again, yeah, the whole memory thing is fragile at best. Fragile at best.
Well, you need to take a look at Julian's apps because they're about memory on the website on the Apple app. So get that for your mom.
Oh yeah, she can't do that, Evie. She can't get on the phone.
It's all art. They're all art related.
All right.
Just looking at the pictures.
All right. I will definitely, you and I will take a look and then we'll talk to my mom. I mean, they asked her who the president was, and she watches the news and she reads newspapers, and then she goes, I didn't vote. She couldn't think of his name. She goes, I didn't vote for him.
Good for her.
So the doctor goes, who would you vote for? And she could only remember, she goes, the African American one.
There he is. There he
Anyway, I could take up it would be therapy for me to talk 20 more minutes about my mother. But which of the husbands do you think that we read about in the book? Which of them do you think was the best for her? Lawrence, Holmes, Sam, or boyfriends, husbands / boyfriends.
Yeah.
She didn't marry all of them. Leanne.
I thought she said, I thought it was it Sam who was the real love of her life? I mean, she mentioned that.
Right.
Yeah.
That was
I think you're right.
Except they were only together for 2 weeks. I mean,
in Mary's apartment. And although that was interesting because Mary, I'd said in the afterward too, was the one who had all this documentation that was given to the author.
Rebecca. Interesting. Interesting. Oh, so that's maybe why Samuel Beckett came out smelling like roses. And he was at the end, and he didn't beat her. Which I mean, John Holmes didn't beat her either. It was just really the person she was.
Don't you wonder why she stayed with Vale?
I
wondered that for quite a few pages.
She had 2 children with him.
Yeah, but she lost her
money.
son with him.
She had things that
women
at that time didn't have. She had the money to leave. A lot of women of that generation couldn't have left.
I don't think she knew how to walk away from him. Of course, she was scared because he was very brutal with her, according to her. Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't think she knew how. And when push finally came to shove, she eventually did get away from him, but it wasn't a good way to do it.
Yeah.
I don't think.
And then
I
she
think
lost the son. She lost the son to him
she
too.
Yeah.
lost the son,
Right.
although she had the daughter and she was away in boarding school. I mean, it's not like, and they had a nanny and a governess. I mean, yeah, Merle.
Well, every so often there was a mention of being Jewish again. And there was this one passage that I thought was so sad. She said, "It's 1914 and my father has been gone for 2 years, but we still have not found or buried his body. If only we were not Jewish, I could have believed in his reincarnation. Every seagull and rose may have borne his soul." And it was so sad because it's true that we don't believe in reincarnation, but I wish that she could have thought of his soul as being out there in the oversoul or something more spiritual. I don't know if there's any one thing in Judaism that she could have hung on to about where did her father's soul go.
Yeah. I also think because we have so many um, concrete movie images of the Titanic and what happened, it's just and that movie was very tragic. So I think that just thinking about that and all those people and what happened, it just makes it even more visceral for us because it's like, we saw him drown off because we watched the
Yeah.
movie. And 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 maybe for Peggy, I, she didn't have those images and she didn't have the closure and how to do that. And the when Benita died, that was so sad that Lawrence kept her away from that. And she knew deep down she should have been there. Lynn, have you?
Well, I wanted to say because my dad passed away when I was 10 and I didn't go to the funeral. My mother wouldn't let me go to the funeral, but I had seen him the weekend before. But still, in my mind, I knew he was dead, but I still had that magical thought that someday I was going to walk into my parents' room and he was going to be there because he had been, it was early chemotherapy. So he was lying in the bed and I would think that he would be there. So it was so understandable that she might think that somehow he wasn't really dead because she didn't really ever see the body.
Yes.
And I really related to that because it's true.
Yeah. 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 I think that I didn't think about that, and I think you're absolutely right. And she was young,
She was
very young.
14. Yeah.
And she
How
was
does
very close with her father, not with
Yes.
her mother, but with her father. She
Yeah.
was very close with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had a good relationship.
Yeah. How does the setting influence the events or dynamics described? And then we'll talk about what role does the community play. I think the setting is, a huge part of the story. Would we be talking about Peggy Guggenheim if she wasn't this millionaire who had done all these different, this in the cream of the crop society of New York and, um, uh, would her story be as compelling? Merle.
I thought it was fascinating that if things were too hard at home, her mother would go to a hotel. Like when Benita was getting ready to be a debutante, and I think Peggy got sick, she took Benita to a hotel. And she did that several times in the story. And I thought that was just unusual. I don't think I've ever heard of people doing that, where you
Yeah.
move out, you just move
Right.
out.
I also can't imagine that the mental health practices were there, adhered to. People would ask for help, and obviously that family needed some mental health professionals to
Yeah.
go in and help them out. Oh, I have to go back here. And what about the different communities she lived in? New York, Paris, Venice. How did those communities shape Peggy and shape the story?
Well, they're very elite, they're living in the creme de la creme wherever she is. She's not living with everyday people.
No, no.
But then there was a place where they went to the sea and got that place out in that small town, and
Right.
how things changed for her there, which
Yeah.
is where she met John.
Yeah.
And then she didn't have to deal with all those hanger-on salon people that would come to their house all the time.
Yeah.
And when he was in prison too. And
Oh,
she had all those
Okay.
parties.
forgot about that.
Yeah.
Evie, Merle, Leanne. Evie.
I think it's so much easier to be yourself and do something be yourself, do something totally different when you're away from your own community where people know your name and have all these attachments to you, where it's just a certain amount of freedom, I would think.
I agree with you. It's like, when you tell the kids when they're going into high school, you can reinvent yourself. This is the year. Merle and then Leanne. Merle.
I think it was wonderful that she worked in a bookstore and got out of her house.
Oh, that's
And
right.
that's where she became a bohemian and met all the artists and writers. That was a great move for her to get out of that house and away from those people who were critical of her. So I thought getting the job was just a very important move forward in her life.
I agree with you. Leanne.
I think that all started when she went to school because she had the freedom. Remember, she was so surprised that people liked her. She didn't think that she was going to have any friends, that she'd be accepted. And she made a very close friend. And that's when she started doing some normal teenage things, again, that she had been prohibited from doing anything like that by her mother. So I think a lot of that started when she went to school and realized there was another world out there that she could participate in and be invited to.
Of the three girls, Hazel, Peggy, and Benita, who do you think was I don't want, I'm loath to say the most normal, but who how did their lives compare? Let's say it that way.
And I think Benita had the most normal type of life.
Mainstream.
Okay, with her husband, and the tragedy in her life was that she could never have children. She kept having miscarriages, and then, of course, she died giving birth, and the child didn't survive either. And I guess Hazel, we don't know. I mean, I couldn't really finish the book. I was having trouble, so I don't know if anything was said about what happened with her, because the police were called in and talking to Peggy, and it had to do with the sister. Did she kill her children? Was it an accident? So do they ever come to a conclusion with that in the book?
It just said she was in an asylum, which, Leanne.
Right. I was really concerned about that too. In fact, when you said what parts of the book remind you of current events, I picture, do you guys remember when Michael Jackson held his little infant
Yeah.
Oh,
over
yeah.
the balcony?
Oh, yeah.
And that image came into my mind.
Uh-huh.
And I was wondering what happened. Did she accidentally drop the children? Did she let go of the children? And I went back, and on page 27, Peggy must have, I assume this was Peggy. Again, we don't know who's speaking, but it says, Hazel will later kill her children. She said she dropped them, but there were witnesses that saw her that said she threw them. So that like shocked me that statement was made early in the book. I guess I read it and I didn't know what it was she was referring to. But evidently if there were witnesses, but again, you don't know the mental state
Yeah.
of her sister.
Right.
And everything that led up to that.
Right. And in the book, they said her husband had just asked for a divorce. So it can't be anything good.
Yeah.
Elaine.
Yeah, there's one point that I read where it said she had the children in her arms, and one of them kind of twisted or threw himself, and she tried to catch him. And in trying to catch him, she got off balance, and the other one fell. It was like
Yeah.
sort of a plausible explanation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was her explanation, though, right? About what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it was hard to keep everyone straight.
Yes. Let's see here. I did find here's a picture of this is Benita. All right. Oh, find a grave. So and she was young, which we know. And that must be the three sisters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is Benita and Peggy. I mean, again, as I was going down the rabbit hole, Peggy Guggenheim died in 1979. So, not that I would get an interview with her, but I mean, she was still alive. And it's within our history. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think this book has been fairly popular, and if the Guggenheim museums will become more popular, there's so many museums to go to, not only in Venice and New York, but I certainly would like to go. I would go now
Same.
to see the Guggenheim and the personal librarian. I went to the J.P. Morgan, the library. I mean. And that happened a long time ago. She did not live into our life, but it's just fascinating, really seeing how the other side lived. Howard.
I think Merle, you can confirm this with the documentary. I think they said towards the end that the Guggenheim Museum in Venice is one of the most visited museums in the world. I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the documentary. So it's apparently it's an amazing collection of artwork.
Yeah. And for this woman to do it, really certainly not with the help of her parents, not really with the help of her siblings. And look what she did, and look at the legacy she left. Do we know what happened to the son? Because you said that the daughter died of suicide. Someone said,
let me just say, her son, the granddaughter was interviewed in the film, and they showed some pictures of the son. He looked very handsome. They said he became an insurance salesman.
Yeah.
Wow.
They seriously said that. So he must have had a rather, normal life rather than getting very involved in the Guggenheim Foundation or anything like that. But
right. All right. Well, from all these artists and again, we can look back and appreciate Jackson Pollock and Kandinsky, but for somebody, to recognize them in their time, like I don't know who is the artist of our time, that will be in a museum in 50 years, and we may never know.
Right.
So,
well, the Guggenheim in Venice, though, is all of her collection. The Guggenheims in Bilbao and the one in New York always have rotating collections. So it would really be interesting to see the Italian museum. Haven't been there.
I'll have to I'll have to get, we'll have to get to Venice.
Go to Venice. Yeah.
Yes.
Go to Venice.
Okay, that's what we want to know.
It sounds like a
well,
good congregational trip
Yeah.
to
Why
Hey,
not?
Venice.
listen, the Jews of Italy. The Jews of
Yeah,
Italy.
yeah.
There's a lot. Listen, in Venice, the word ghetto it's an
Mhm.
Italian word, and it
Mhm.
comes from Venice because they locked all the Jews into this island and they were in the ghetto and they couldn't get out. And the Venetian glass of for Kiddush cups and all those menorahs are absolutely beautiful. And also the quintessential, there's a chess set in glass, in Venetian glass, of the rabbis against the popes. So
Oh, wow.
there's just there's a lot of tchotchkes, a lot of tchotchkes. And when you're there, I was there. I didn't, I was with Arthur, and we were coming back from Israel. I was 21 tops. I didn't know about the Guggenheim Museum, and she would have still been alive because it was 19, it was 1979. But you go to these stores and you're like, you see hundreds and you're like, oh, tchotchke, tchotchke, tchotchke. And then you bring it home and it's like, ooh, this is so beautiful. Anyway, we're going from the sublime to real serial killers next time.
Oh, no.
And right. The book is I brought it up. I just have to find it here. Okay.
Was it We
Um,
Would Never?
We would
We
never.
would never.
Yes, by Tova Mervis. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's based on, again, a real story. Oh, let's bring it up again. So if you like that,
Very
there's
good.
always something. Here it is.
It's very good.
Oh, see, that's why I keep bringing up a video. There she is. And I've read, I haven't read some of her books in a long while, but I really like her as an author. And I think we read Visible City and yeah. So The Ladies Auxiliary, that's the one. That's the wow.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
1999, dating
Yeah,
myself.
we read that one.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. So that's our book for next time. And I will tell you when we meet because I have the date. We meet February
26th.
Yes. And I will actually be coming to you. Oh, yeah. Oh, that doesn't look right. Coming to you from Washington, D.C., because I'm visiting my kids, but
Oh, nice.
from 8 to 9 we can Eastern, 7 to 8 your time. So I will send that all out. A couple of interesting things at Macomb this Sunday, because I know it's going to warm up. Ben Zeller is talking about Intro to Islam, 12:30 Lox and Bagels, 1 o'clock program, or it'll be hybrid. Tomorrow, we're not having the Shabbat and Shmooze. It's just too cold. We will have services. We have 2 B'nai Mitzvah this weekend, so they're going to go on and they're coming. So, but you can always stream. And if you go to mymacomb.org, worship streaming, it's the first link right there. Rabbi is starting this new book group January 27th. The first one is Mel Brooks, and the second one is Franz Kafka. Also, he has started back up again Jewish Real Classics. And next week it's A Big Life with Anthony Hopkins.
Oh.
Yeah. And this week we did, I thought it was fun, A Big Happy Family, which for people in this group was the exact story of Danny Shapiro's The Inheritance. This movie was the exact story. And I tried to Google it and they didn't come up. But this woman did a DNA test, and her father, she was only 50% Ashkenazi Jewish, and her mother had used other sperm to try to get, his sperm working. It was the exact same story.
Oh.
So, but it was a cute movie. As I was watching it, I was like, I've seen this. I've seen this story.
That's why I started tracking my books in Goodreads, because I would start to read a book and I'd be like, this seems awful familiar.
I know. That full transparency, that's happened to me. I assigned a book, I was like,
Me
wait
too.
a minute, I read that. Anyway,
Wait, I got to tell you about a book.
yes.
I got a book called The Happiest Man on Earth by an Auschwitz survivor, Eddie Jacob.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone can see it, but I bought this book
Yes.
on Amazon. A friend of mine read the book, and it's a very small book, short book.
Mhm.
And she said it was absolutely fabulous.
Did
So
you like it?
I haven't read it yet because I was doing the book club book. Okay.
All right. Well, if you like it, Marilyn, then I'll take a look at it.
Yeah.
Evie, go ahead.
The Macomb, the flyer that went out today has a totally different movie for next week.
It did.
Yeah, it was a movie I never heard of.
Oh.
So that's why I just looked when you said that.
Oh, well, I'll have to look. I'm going to send this discussion out tomorrow, and when I do, I'll put in the. I was trying to remember it. Was it a movie with Anthony Hopkins?
I don't know anything about. I never heard of it. I mean,
Okay.
but I never heard of the other one either. So I'm the wrong one to ask.
Yeah, all right. Well,
I remember it was different. It was different than what was mentioned and what you just mentioned.
All right. Well, look, I'll send it out tomorrow. Because there's some people asked for like the recording, and it's good to see everyone. Please stay warm, stay inside, and I'll see you around.
I have a quick
Thank you all.
question.
Yes, Howard.
Regarding the books, because when we got the original list, I had next month Rebecca of Ivanhoe. Is that
right?
What we're doing?
I need to go back and look at that too.
I see Rebecca of Ivanhoe is March 26th.
Right.
Yeah,
I have it on the original list of February 26th.
Yeah, I had to switch her because she couldn't come in February. So she is actually coming, Allison Bass. But I will double check that all tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.
Nice seeing everyone. Stay warm.
Stay
Thank you.
warm.
Stay